So we are very happy to have Kerry Hammerton here with us at the Red Wheelbarrow today. She's been published by Quella Books, and 3 poetry collections are out with Majaji, and I believe there's a 4th on its way, which is very exciting. And tonight she's going to read to us and hopefully answer some questions later on if she's up for it. Take it away.
Thanks, Melissa. Hi, everybody. I'm definitely up for answering questions a little bit later. That line in that poem, setting fire to our small talk, what a beautiful line. Love that, love that. So I've been thinking a lot recently about transitions and about spaces in between, and how when you read and write poetry, you almost in that kind of liminal space. And so I wanted to start off by reading a poem by somebody else, and I'm going to end the evening by reading a poem from another poet. And this poet, her name is Natasha Tress-Rui, and she's an American poet, and this is from her collection called Monument New and Selected Poems. The title of the piece is called Theories of Time and Space. You can get there from here, though there's no going home. Everywhere you go, you will be somewhere you've never been. Try this. Head south on Mississippi 49, 1 by 1 mile markers, ticking off another minute of your life. Follow this to its natural conclusion. Dead end of the coast. The pier at Gulfport, where riggings of shrimp boats are loose stitches in a sky threatening rain. Cross over the man-made beach, 26 miles of sand dumped on the mangrove swamp, buried terrain of the past. Bring only what you must carry, tome of memory, its random blank pages. On the dock where you board the boat for Ship Island, someone will take your picture. The photograph, who you were, will be waiting when you return. So as we head out to Ship Island, I thought I would start with the poem that was in the emailer that went out. Things I keep from my mother. When I lost my virginity, who with? How that nice boy, the one she liked, wasn't nice behind closed doors, and other things I couldn't even tell my friends. When I look at my hands, I see her aging hands. Her indrawn lips remind me of her mother's aged lips. But these are things I do not tell her. There's much my mother doesn't know. How many lovers I've had, why I live so far away from home, how often despair rises in me. So Melissa mentioned a 4th collection. So I'm not sure when it'll be published, Melissa, but I am working on it. And so what I thought I would do is kind of create a trail of some of those poems and just 1 or 2 other from my 3rd collection. And so the next one is also about my mother, and it's called Not a Difficult Birth. After a few hours, you just slipped out. This is a story my mother tells. I imagine fishes swimming. I was born at 3 in the morning. Did my fins beat against her ribs, push her out to sleep? Or was she still awake, craving salt and licking ice to appease her unknown daughter? The midwife wrapped up the double afterbirth in newspaper, a curiosity to be taken away. When I'm 8, this unformed twin pokes her finger bones through my skin. Where will she swim from? At 6 on the morning of my birth, although sunrise is still 2 hours away, a cold, cloudless, snowless day, my mother climbed a stepladder to clean and polish the windows. This was something that needed to be done. then, of course, reading poems about my mother wouldn't be the same without reading a poem or two about my father. Getting ready for school. My father's right hand fumbles in harmony with my own. His left hand has had to unlearn its deftness. He's teaching me a Windsor knot for my grey and black striped school tie. Last night we polished shoes, sky blue brushes, polish on, and then sweep and buff until the shoes gleam. Once a week we do this, my father, my brother, and I. Polish and brushes live under the kitchen sink with bleach and dishwashing liquid. Secrets of clean and polish standing together in domestic tidiness. We bring order to ourselves. Perfect knotted ties, shiny shoes, don't lie, always say please and thank you, be grateful, don't tell everyone our business. Look after yourself because no one else will. Don't cry, do as I say, never say, I love you. For Dad dying. You are far out now, light fading, the edge of things gone. We stand on the shore, sand firm under our feet. We light candles, not to call you back, but to give you a flickering light to keep behind you as you move further into darkness. The seagulls have silenced their squawking, stop their fighting and brawling. The June grasses bend their heads in the wind. Planes have altered their flight paths to create a sky that is open and free. We will hold hands and hinder our tears until you can no longer see us. Let nostalgia go. Grant death to yourself. Hurtle now. Let nothing hold you back. So this fourth collection is interesting because I've moved a little bit away from the I and much more into the third person and to writing about she. So I'm going to just read a few poems around that and then come back to one of the poems in my third collection. Somebody's not muted. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Melissa. Okay. 10 fingers, no. Let me start that one again. 10 things no longer there. A signet ring buried by accident in her parents' backyard when she was 7. The 13-year-old girl in a blood-stained blue nightdress telling her mother she was having her period for the first time. The teddy bear she used to French kiss, practicing for the real thing. Her virginity given to a boy she wouldn't recognize if she met him now. The yellow Datsun bought new and passed from her father to her mother to her brother, and then to her when she was old enough to drive. The man she married, his father. They died a year apart. The deaf dog, his glossy black coat, his thrashing tail and half-choked bark. Her father's shaking hands, his twitching toes, her father. A black hat a black hat she bought for the winter she spent in Paris, her period. And then I just wanted to read one of the I poems from Secret Keeper, my third collection, which really talks into this theme of she and I and not being there, but being there, and the self's relationship with the body. Exhibit. I am no longer myself. Some slippage has occurred. The silences in the viscera of my body sliding, skin softening. I get tired, too many sleepless nights. I want to look back and say it was only love in the museum of life, my body and I, but in the museum of life, my body and I would be in different rooms. Between us, hooks of anger and hurt pulled tight through skin and heart. And then this next poem is actually on the AVBOB website. Under the category of hope, actually. But let me read it. Hold on. A woman comes home, hangs her handbag on a peg near the door, slips off her coat. It falls into a splash of sun. She leans back, the door a buttress holding her upright, and then she slides. The double of the carpet prickles against her palms. She lets go her keys. The carpet holds on. The door doesn't grow weary. The sun warms her feet. If only there was someone to bring her a cushion, a blanket, a cup of tea. The woman lies down, pulls her coat closer, her arms a pillow. The carpet softens, the door a ballast. She closes her eyes. And then I want to read another poem from my second collection, which is called County Kerry. So it is a little bit about me, but it is a poem that I really like, and it's one of the poems in one of the festivals, poetry festival in McGregor a while ago, that they hung on one of the trees, and it was really delightful to see it there. County Kerry. I have heard that it is a place of contrasts, rocky cliffs and sweeping sandy bays in the south, flatter estuary plains in the north, a place touched by mist and crisscrossed with narrow country lanes. Kerry holds ancient Celtic mysteries, guards a tradition of poetry and song. I imagine lilting voices murmuring in pubs, that you could fall in love here, spend time, discover secrets here. When I'm asked how I spell my name, I always say the traditional way, the ancient way, the Irish way. So one of the, let me read a few more poems and then I'll talk a little bit more. This, the title of this poem is Cupboard. Crammed, full. The clothes she doesn't wear because she is too fat, too thin, too tall, too short. Her legs are too long, not long enough. She has no waist. She's shaped like a bell curve. She's shaped like a pear, an apple, a butternut, a gem squash, a banana. Her bum is too big, too flat. Her legs are straight up and down. Her body is straight up and down. Her skin is too pale, too dark, too yellow, pink, green, blue. She has saddlebags. Her arms flap like wings. Her stomach is too flat. She looks 9 months pregnant. Her calves are too big. Her thighs are too big. Her shoulders, hips are too broad, too narrow. Her breasts are humongous, not big enough. Her arms are too long, too short. Her legs are chunky. She's too old. She's too young. She is. This next prose poem, What She Wants, was published in Living Well Feminist. with Jen Thorpe as the editor at Quella Books. What She Wants. And it's a great collection to get, by the way, not just because mine's in it, because mine's a very short piece, but because of the other things that are in there. What She Wants. It's easy to want the things you're supposed to want. 2.5 children, a successful job in an office, or being a staying-at-home mom. Evening walks on the beach, a retirement fund, a well-designed house, children at private schools, the latest series on Netflix, coffee with your girlfriends to complain about the children, and your husband, of course, a husband who loves you, a healthy breakfast, up-to-date fashion, one glass of wine at night. But what about the things you're not supposed to want? The thin edge of a sharp blade, an extra large pizza to be eaten alone in one sitting, sex with someone else's husband, a whole bar of extra dark chocolate eaten for supper, ramming your car into the bitch who stole your parking, sucking marrow from cracked bones, sex with someone else's wife. Another tattoo. You're 55 for God's sake, not 20. Half a bottle of whiskey, gold tackies, a hotel room, so you can spend the whole day in bed, have food delivered, and waste someone else's water. So this next poem is not about people, but it's about a place. And it is about our delightfully beloved Cape Town, and it's called Dear Cape Town. Dear Cape Town, I'd like to give you a giraffe, like the one they have in the Central Park of Ciudad Juarez, in that northern Mexican town. They treat that giraffe like a tourist. I'd watch our giraffe amble along Beitenkracht, meander through Burgkamp and District 6. Volunteers would gently shoo her into the Grotescuur estate, where she would learn to gallop with the zebras and savor pine needles. We would close the highways, guarantee her safe passage. Caught in the city's gridlock, drivers sit patiently, listening to her journey on the radio. Cape Town would applaud and ululate when she reached refuge. It would feel like 1990 again, when Madiba gave his freedom speech at the City Hall, cheering crowds fierce. Or even when everybody queued to vote for the first time, all day seared by the sun. We'd tell stories about the giraffe, about her long legs clumping on the slopes of Table Mountain. Our evening news would recount what she ate, which visiting dignitaries took photographs with her. We'd picnic next to her enclosure, nod hello to all the people we don't know, swap recipes for cook sisters, Brady, Umkosho. Each time we drove or walked or bussed into town, we'd twist our necks to catch a glimpse of our very own giraffe. After a few months, we'd forget to look. We'd snarl in traffic, snarl everywhere, go back to saying those and them, abandon our picnics, use our own recipes. Maybe I won't give you a giraffe, Cape Town. Maybe I won't. So what I've found lately is I've also been writing a lot of poems about nature. And interestingly, I'm going to be doing, this is kind of advanced advertising, but I have a friend of mine who sings, and we've done a few shows in the past where we've done singing and poetry, and we're going to be doing one again this year. And we've decided on the theme of nature. And I went back into my previous collections, and there are nature poems in them. But I found lately I've been writing a lot more. So what I thought I would do is read some of those. And I think I have read them a few of them here before. I want to ask questions. I want to ask questions of the trees, the yellow bird and the swart bass, the Cape saffron, of their long white and brown trunks, entwined branches, of the sunlight that strokes their canopies. I want to ask questions of the dead trees, their dried out bark, leaves and broken twigs scattered on the forest floor, their wet rot smell. I want to ask questions of the stream rushing towards the sea, maybe of the water itself, or the sound of the waterfall, of the two men who stopped for coffee at its base, of the runners who never stumble on the path, of the hikers and their dogs, yes, the dogs, with their fascinated noses and hurrying legs. I want to ask questions of the francolins grubbing and rusting for food, of the moles, their piles of dirt marring the path, of the snakes and otters, the duikers, the caracals, the kicking toads, all the things I never see, and maybe of the winter-sodden earth giving way beneath my feet, the cold air, the moss clinging to rocks, a glen of leftover autumn leaves, the luminescence of the ferns. Yes, I want to ask questions of all of these things. So I'm going to read two poems about bees. And the first poem will give you an explanation as to why bees are so important. Drought. I want my spirit animal to be a wolf, but it is bees that bother me, hovering. Maybe they are thirsty. There is dust in my eyes. My feet are dirty from walking on a clean floor. Last night, I dreamt of a tsunami in my kitchen. The night before, splashing in a blue swimming pool. Rain, maybe tomorrow. Change of season. The bees are dying. They sacrifice themselves in small cairns outside my front door, or hang themselves on the wall, or burn clusters against the stairwell light. I found one slowly crawling over my keyboard, looking for the right letter to say whatever it is that bees need to say. One fell into my hair. When I brushed it away, it sank a hot needle of pain into my finger, as if to shout, I'm willing to die for my life. What about you? When the dying oak has been cut down and the bees have disappeared, what will signal the change in season? So this is a lockdown poem. I don't have many of those. No, actually, I have quite a few, but not very many of them are worthy of reading. But this one, in the winter of 2020, we were still not allowed to go on beaches. And I decided, and I can't remember which month it was, I think it might have been still quite early, it might have been about June. I was tired of not being on the beach, so I went for a walk, and here is the poem from that walk. Winter beach walk. A long stretch of pale sand, purple mountains looming on the horizon, the sky a jigsaw, fluffed up white clouds, patches of blue, the sea grey and flat, the tide going out. My footsteps fade quickly. On the edge of the waves, sand damp and firm. Seagulls squawk and swirl around a lone fisherman. The beach curves away from me and into the far distance, a walk that could last into the night, the moon and stars to guide me. In summer, I'll walk here barefoot, dipping my feet into the cool current of lapping waves. There'll be kites and dog walkers, picnickers, swimmers, children laughing, the sun reddening my neck and arms. Now I am glad it is winter, a scarf to warm my neck, hands buried in pockets. I lift my face to the wind, smell the damp fog running in from the ocean. And then, as the last one of my poems that I'm going to read, I wanted to read this one. Simply because it's a silly poem, and I always like to end on a more cheerful note. And I must admit, reading it makes me laugh. I dreamt I was a bear. I dreamt I was a bear, long snout of bear, rot of mushrooms, musty squirrel, damp earth, sweet honey. Except my skin looked pinkish white. I dreamt I was a bear that looked human, except for my snout, which was all bare. Spice of acorn, fire smoke, autumn leaf tang, sweet honey in a tree. I tried to climb that tree, but I had no claws. My shortened fingernails couldn't dig into the bark. My hips wouldn't swivel for my feet to grasp the trunk. I couldn't climb. I dreamt I was a bear. He was sort of human, but I had a bare nose. Dusty pine needles, gummy pine cones, cold wind, sharp snow, earth truffles, and a bare desire for honey. My pink-white skin reddening in the sun. I was a bear, or was I human, without clothes, a bear without food, sweet honey in a tree out of reach, a bear who couldn't climb a tree. When I woke, red yellow leaves littered my bed. I was hungry. So I wanted to end off by reading a poem by another poet. This is a poem by a British poet called Carolyn Bird, and her collection, Air. This comes out of her collection called Air, and I have a sense it's won some awards, but I couldn't tell you what they are. And this, in a way, is also about kind of in between spaces. There is a corner of the city where the air is soft resin. Step in and it hardens around you, suspended in amber. We made the mistake of kissing there, I mean here, our mouths midway across the same inhalation, like robbers mid-leap between rooftops. If kisses were scored by composers that placed the breath on the upbeat, oh God, music preceded by mid-air, when the baton lifts, the orchestra tightens, and before the 1, 2, 3, and the sunlight is meticulous, and the river holds its tongue, and your silver earring steals like aerialist's hoop caught mid-spin, a note almost sung, locked in the amber of the and. We just want to land or be landed on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bravo. I didn't hear a voice catch, and I think you were very organized, so hopefully you felt that way as well. Anybody who'd like to ask Kerry a question about her writing, about her poems, about her process, or about her life, or whatever, please raise your hand or pop it in the chat or unmute yourself and catch my attention. I'm curious, do you write anything other than poetry, or are you is poetry your thing, your only thing, or your main thing?
Poetry is my main thing, Melissa, but I do write other things. I've had a short story published. I've had some shorter prose pieces published. But poetry is definitely my thing.
What do you think keeps you drawn to that specifically as a writing form or art form?
Because it's who I am, because it's how I self-identify. I remember, I can't remember how old I was. I think I must have been about 9 or 10, and writing my very first poem, and I did it while I was skipping down the road. And there's a bit of a myth, a family myth or story and myth around this story, is that I remember doing this. I was skipping down the road, writing this poem in my head about birds that fly away on your birthday. So it had all these beautiful rhymes in it. And I'm very convinced it was published in the school magazine, but my family tells me that it wasn't. But anyway, I have a very vivid memory of that. And I think that it's that memory that keeps coming back. But I also have another strong memory of myself when I was younger, actually. And I know it, we were younger because we lived in a different house. And across the road was this park, and it had oak trees. And of course, so in the autumn, all of these leaves would fall down. And after school, I loved to go there and to construct these leaves into houses and villages and make up stories about these people. So I think for me, poetry is very much in me and very much a part of my body. But the stories are there as well. So we'll have to see what emerges. I just write, and whatever emerges.
That's lovely. I can definitely relate to that feeling of it always having been part of one. Jacques, you've got a question.
Okay.
I just absolutely, I just want to say I absolutely loved that reading. I enjoyed every minute of it. Thank you so much for that. And I'm curious about what it is that's different when you move from the I to the not I. Can you predict how it's different, or is it just you just try different things and different nuts and see what works? Yeah, I think my other question is sort of beyond words. I'll stick with that one. Thanks.
No, Jacques, it's a very good question. And it's a long conversation I had with Vanula Dowling, actually, particularly about some of the poems in this book collection. I think when you move away from the I into she, it creates a little bit of a distance.
Mm.
And it allows you to look onto what's happening as opposed to it being direct. And in a way, I think that it does change the wording a little bit. And I'm going to read you another poem right now. And I actually have read this before, and I read this with my and I, but I've changed this to her and her body. And I think it does something quite interesting.
Mm.
There is something about her body. There's something she wants to say about her body, but you don't want to listen. Listen, there's something she wants to say, her body, you don't, you want, it's late in the year, late in the body. There's something she wants to say, how they disappoint each other, her body, her, how you. There's something she wants to say to you. There's something she wants to say about her body. There's something she wants to say to her body, but it doesn't want to listen. Listen. There's something she wants to say about her body, but it won't let her. And I think for me, it just shifts it. So it just, I don't know, it gives you a slightly different perspective, I think.
Yeah, I think the poem, it's a wonderful poem.
Thank you.
Sometimes I move from I to he, and then I feel as if I'm hiding. But sometimes it works. I think it works wonderfully in that poem. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Anybody else who'd like to ask something or make a comment? Marika, you've unmuted. You can talk.
Thank you. It is more almost accidentally. I read an interview with Kobus that Kobus Moelman did, and he spoke also about this I and he, also something about creating a distance. And for him, he also said something about in some poems it works for him as a form of letting the reader in and not insisting on it being an own experience. If that. But I think it is a particular tone that has to do with that, because I don't think all I poems exclude the reader.
No.
But that was something that he had to do. And I as a personal comment, just I wanted to say I really liked the poem about the father and with the ties and the shoes. It felt to me it could have been my father. It was quite a I had it was pretty much my family setting the shoes, everything. It was like that. so that it was lovely. Thank you.
Thank you, Marika. There's universality in poems. And I know Mafika Gwala has that beautiful poem about being in the kitchen with the summer rain. I've forgotten what the title is. And although those circumstances are very far from what my life was like, it just reminded me of my grandmother's kitchen. And so it's really lovely when poetry is able to do that, to bring you into your own story and your own life. So thank you.
Ed, would you like to ask a question? And then we've also got one after that from someone else.
Thank you, Melissa. Hi, Kerry.
Hi, Ed.
Hi, lovely to hear your voice here again.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I also missed quite a lot of your reading, just struggled to connect. But part of what I wanted to say, Marika has already addressed in her response, and that was that I felt that if I look at my own writing or other people's writing, similar thing, that paradoxically the use of he or she, paradoxically or otherwise, lets the reader in more, depending on the poem. But really enjoyed that poem, and I loved the imaginative runs with the giraffe. I think it was Dear Cape Town, and I Dreamt I Was a Bear.
Yes.
Stunning stuff. I also have the question that I have is just your work with supervising other people's work, and has that altered the way you approach your own work, or not really? Or is anything more you want to say about that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Robert Barreld once said to me that when you start working with students, your own creativity and your own work flies out of the window. But I'm not immersed into working with students all the time. It's usually for quite a contained period. And what I really love about supervising students is they bring their own set of heroes, writing heroes, poetry heroes, into the conversation that we have about writing. And so I learn a lot from them. And very often they're writing things that I wouldn't write. I've supervised some really brilliant students who I'm envious of in terms of the way that they express their voice in poetry. So it definitely enriches my work. Sometimes, though, when you're deep in the trenches of editing poetry, all you can see are the words and the lines. And I think that sometimes at that point, it's important for me to go for a walk, to go for a swim, to kind of connect with nature again, so that I can find my way back into my own creativity. Otherwise, you get stuck in the screen, and that's difficult. And I think, yeah, if I think about students that I've worked with over the years, you know, I've been, I don't know, I think people who come to writing are special people. And so I've been really lucky with the students that I've supervised that I've learned. We've learned together. And I think my role is also to be tough. And sometimes that can be really hard, because I know what it's like when you have this fledgling poem or this fledgling collection, and you think it's done, and then somebody comes along and says, well, you know, here's some more things to think about. So it keeps me humble.
Hey, thank you.
I've got a question from Georgia, and then I see your comment in the chat later. I'll call on you after that. Georgia, you just need to unmute yourself.
Hi there. Oh, hi there. Hi, Kerry.
Hi.
Thank you so much for that. I so enjoyed your reading. And
Thank you.
Jacques actually asked the question that I wanted to ask, but I can maybe go a little bit further. And I just so enjoyed how you split the reading into the I and the she, you know, and grouped them like that. I just found that really, really wonderful. And also to finish with the bear, you know, was almost like it just the question that came from the first two parts was almost answered with the bear, because there was this third being, you know. It was lovely. I absolutely loved it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
I wonder, I don't know exactly what I noticed, but I think I noticed a change in pace with between the I and the she, and somehow that the she poems there was more, it felt like they were more urgent. And I just wondered if that was me, or whether that was whether you felt that way about them as well.
I do think that there is more urgency in those poems. And it's an interesting question, because it talks to tone, and it talks to that's a really brilliant question, and I'll tell you why. Because one of the things that I've struggled with in this fourth collection is the consistency of tone. Because there are still some I poems in here, particularly the beginning ones related to family, and then later on it becomes she. And there are really good transitions in the collection. But I think you've just really highlighted what that transition is that once the she emerges, it's kind of this objectification of women in a way, and an urgency to resolve it. So yes, I absolutely agree with you that there is definitely that shift. There's also in that first poem that I read from my fourth collection, Not a Difficult Birth, about this unformed twin. And there is a poem in Secret Keeper whose name escapes me right at this point in time. And it's a poem that comes before Exhibit, and the name will come to me, who also talks about that unformed, who talks about the twin, but the twin in the mirror. And I think in a way, sometimes for me personally, saying she is about her, about that twin, and about talking about her life. Of course, also remembering that everything in poetry is not non-fiction, and a lot of it is fiction. But I think there's always been that kind of dichotomy within me around the she outside of me, who's not really outside of me, who's actually in me. I don't know if all of that makes sense, but thank you for your question. That was very helpful.
Oh, absolutely, Kerry. That's a wonderful answer as well, because it just opens up so many other aspects within the question as well. So yeah, brilliant. Thank you. I will ponder. Thank you so much. Great.
Thank you for that then. Lovely. Letu has managed to raise your hand. Well done. If you'd like to ask a question, go ahead. We can't hear you, but you are unmuted. Still can't hear you, Letu. I wonder if you want to type your question in the chat, if there's some sound issue on your side. Is there anyone else who wants to ask something in the meantime? Barbara, yes.
Okay.
Hello, Kerry. This is not exactly a question.
That's okay.
I really loved your reading. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I resonated with so many things. The little girl who plays in oak leaves and builds houses. And I hear her voice very much in all your poems, which was exciting. The other thing about I or she, I really like the she because it's like putting a mask on and giving yourself permission to say what you really wouldn't say if you say I. I don't know if you have that experience, but anyway, that wasn't a question. That was just a sharing. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed your poems. Loved your bear.
He's too cute. But yes, I agree with you about the she. It does allow you to put a mask on and to say things that you wouldn't necessarily say because it becomes less personal as the writer.
Yeah.
Paul, would you like to ask something?
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can,
Yes.
Paul.
Okay, thanks, Kerry. Thanks for those poems. I like them all. There was one that's especially interested me, and it posed a challenge, which was the one that was put in the category of hope in the AVBOB, on the AVBOB website.
Yes.
Can I ask you to reread it? Because the challenge for me was to actually detect or feel the way in which hope was embedded in that poem. So
Yes.
give me another chance, please, to see if I can figure that one out.
Okay. Okay, here we are. It's called Hold On. I'll give you a hint. It's in the carpet. Hold on. A woman comes home, hangs her handbag on a peg near the door, slips off her coat. It falls into a splash of sun. She leans back, the door a buttress holding her upright, and then she slides. The nubble of the carpet prickles her palms. She lets go her keys. The carpet holds on. The door doesn't grow weary. The sun warms her feet. If only there was someone to bring her a cushion, a blanket, a cup of tea. The woman lies down, pulls her coat closer, her arms a pillow. The carpet softens, the door a ballast. She closes her eyes.
Thanks, Kerry. That provides something of a sense of hope, however faint, almost like a bleak kind of hope.
No, I agree with you. It is a bleak hope.
Thank you.
That's great, thank you. And look at us getting all these bonus poems. Letty, do you want to try again? Or do you think that it's not going to work? And is there anybody else with a question still? Going once, going twice. Seems not, and seems Leto is not going to be able to get that question through, unfortunately. Okay, so then I think we're going to say thank you so much, Kerry, for your fantastic reading and for your really insightful and thought-provoking answers and discussion now. This has been lovely. We're so happy to have had you here with us, and we're looking forward to that fourth collection, I'm sure. I'm going to stop the recording.